Hi everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada, and you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. So today I wanted to show you how I made the Dutch door fold card that I shared on my blog today. So this blog hop was part of the Creativity Abounds team, and every month we share a card, a project that we've been working on. There is a theme usually, so this month is fun folds. And so my fun fold is Dutchdoor. Now, the other part of this team is we created tutorials. So if you purchase from me in the month of January and through the middle of February, you will get a tutorial that has 13 different fun folds in it. And there's some amazing projects. So today I want to show you how I created the Dutchdoor fold card that I shared as part of the blog hop. Now let me switch over and I'll show you the supplies that I use. Now this Petal Park bundle, it's a punch bundle, is quickly becoming a favorite for me. Now it's part of the Regency Park suite that also includes this Sentimental Park, which is an amazing sentiment. It's got all sorts of sentiment and then some pretty flowers on it, and they coordinate together, which is really nice. There is also design on my card. And these milky dots, one's got to move. Let's get this dot that's gone rogue back in where it belongs. So milky dots that come in some pretty colors. I've used a lot of them. So you can see I've used a lot of these kind of gold ones. There are the blue ones, kind of a pinky color, and then kind of a creamy color. All will go with this, so I'll use some different colors on mine. And then, of course, the punch that goes along with this. Now, this is two-step stamping. Both of these stamp sets are two-step stamping. The other stamp set has dies that goes along with it. But this one, I love punches. And so this one will punch out the 3 flowers and the leaf. So it is two-step stamping. So you have the 2 different stamps, one to stamp the kind of background and then the details on them. So, all right, let's get started and I'll show you how I made this card. Now, I'm using, or I did use, Sweet Sorbet on my card. So this is Sweet Sorbet Garden Green, and then the flowers are stamped in Petal Pink and Sweet Sorbet. And the way this Dutch door works is it opens at the top and then opens at the bottom. And this is made using 2 pieces of cardstock, so you don't have to, you might think you do. Okay, so got that. Here is my supplies. It's for my sentiment piece. Now, the first thing you need, now all of the measurements for this card will be on my blog, and the link to my blog is under this video. So if you kind of get lost or you miss any of the measurements, just check the link to my blog at the bottom of this video and you will get all of the written instructions and measurements. So this piece of Sweet Sorbet is cut 4 1/4 by 9. And I'm going to score it at 3 1/2. Okay. And then the other piece that you need for your card base to get the bottom flaps is a piece that's cut 2 inches by 8 1/2. So I'm going to score this at 2 1/8. And I find it just easier to just turn it around and score it 2 1/8 from the other end. But it's actually 2 1/8 and 6 3/8. So either works. Okay, that's all the cutting and scoring that we're going to do. Okay, so as always, fold into the mountain or the raised line. So that's that way. And use your bone folder to get a good crease. So the paper trimmer has already started to break down the fibers, and then the bone folder just helps. Now, again, we're going to fold into the mountain. So that's the raised line. So I'm going to fold in. So these 2 flaps that we created with the scoring fold in. So this, again, is the bottom of our card. So when we lay this on, you can see that my top flips open and these 2 bottom pieces flip out. Now you can use tear and tape adhesive, or you can just use liquid glue or Stampin' Seal, whatever your favorite is, If you want it to be a little more sturdy, maybe tear and tape adhesive. But I don't expect to be too rough with my cards, so I'm just going to use liquid glue. Now this piece, I'm going to fold these in and hopefully not get glue all over my fingers. So this piece fits right at the very bottom of your card, aligned with the edges and the bottom. Now the good thing about liquid glue is it gives you a little bit of wiggle room, but it also, so I always try and keep one set of fingers on it because it will shift on you until it actually is completely dry. So now we've got our bottom flap and our top flap. So this card base is really easy to make, especially when you use the 2 pieces of cardstock. If you're going to cut this out from one piece of 8.5 by 11, you would have to cut down, and I don't have the measurements for that. So we're going to go with this easy way. Okay, so now I've got a piece, I'm trying to see my measurements here. My trimmer is in the way. All right, so I've got a piece of basic white cardstock that I have cut. I think that's the piece, yeah, that is cut 3 3/8 by 4 1/8. And then I've got a piece of designer series paper, and I have to trim this, that is cut 3/4 of an inch, and it needs to be 4 1/8 because it's just going to go along the bottom. So I will trim that. And then for these bottom flaps, you need 2 pieces of basic white cardstock, and those are cut 1 7/8 by 2 inches, and 2 pieces of designer series paper. They're cut 1 3/4 by 1 7/8. So we're going to start, we'll get the bottom kind of flaps done. So we're going to glue these pieces of designer series paper to our basic white. You could use garden green if you wanted, but I just thought the pop of basic white would just be kind of make it fresh. This paper is so pretty. I kind of like the line drawings, and there's a little bit of detail to them. Okay, so there's our designer series paper adhered on, and while I'm at it, I'm going to adhere this piece on and I'll trim it. I want this piece of designer series paper along the bottom because it will help me. Don't need Post-it notes, just using my silicone mat so I don't get glue all over my grid paper. So it will help me when I go to stamp my leaves on. I know where to stamp because I've got my designer series paper on here already. Okay, so we'll just trim this. There we go. Okay, so that's okay. So we're going to adhere these 2 pieces to the bottom flaps. And there is a right and a wrong way to these, so just make sure you get them going the right way because they are just slightly wider than they are tall. And if you have if you've used designer series paper that has a direction to it, just kind of make sure you're thinking about what direction you want to cut your paper in. Okay, so there's our bottom flaps. So now we're going to stamp. First of all, we're going to stamp and I realized I didn't bring some basic white cardstock that I'm going to have to grab. Okay, hopefully that's enough because I need to stamp my flowers. Now, we're going to stamp our leaves in garden green. So it is 2-step stamping. So one of the tricks with this is a photopolymer stamp. And I find that these stamps wiggle and they'll change shape on you, which is absolutely fine because sometimes you want them to change shape. But I find that with 2-step stamping, I kind of want my leaves to go in the right, like my detail to go over top of my solid, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. So I'm just kind of putting one stamp over the other, and then we'll pick up the first one to get kind of the shape aligned. And now we're just going to lay this. Okay, I've got it going mostly right. I don't mind if it's a little bit off, but if I do it that way, I kind of get them in the same shape. And that kind of matters because I don't want my top to go all over the place. Now I want to stamp off on this. So I've inked up with Garden Green, going to stamp off, and I just want this to be slightly lighter. You could use a different color, but I kind of like the look of the Garden Green. So it's just slightly lighter than what it would be if I used full strength. And then we're going to go back, come back over this with the full strength, and hopefully I've got that lined up. Not too bad. It's a little bit off, but that's okay. It makes it a little bit abstract. Okay, while I have this, I'm going to stamp my sentiment. Now I've used the thanks sentiment from the Sentimental Park. Just love this. Now you could use a punch or a die, or you could be like me and fussy cut, because I tend to do a lot of fussy cutting. Okay, so I'll do that in a minute. Now let's we're going to stamp the flowers. And I'm going to stamp the inside, the background, the solid piece of the flowers using Petal Pink. Now, we're going to punch this out. So pay attention to which way you want to stamp so that you can punch this out easily. So I always kind of take a look at my punch to see which way it's going, and then I stamp accordingly. So I'm going to stamp 2 sets of flowers. Leave this out. So I'm going to stamp the inside with the same colors. And then the details, the detailed flowers are going to just go over top. Definitely don't have this one lined up. Just going to take that off for a minute. Lay that on there. There we go. So again, just make sure that these are, because they're photopolymer, they do shift. Oh, didn't do so well on that one. Let's see if we can get this one lined up a little bit better. Like I said, I'm not too fussed about it, but probably could have done a better job on that one. That one's better. Okay, and while we have our flower stamps out, we're just going to stamp these flowers down here in the bottom right corner, or if you want the bottom left, or in the middle, or wherever you want them to be. I just always seem to stamp in the bottom right corner of my card. There we go. So I'm not going to put a sentiment in. It just gives me lots of room to write my note. Okay. So now let's punch our flowers out. So we're going to get the leaf, I think, or part of the leaf. But, okay, we're just going to punch. So those of you that follow me know that I broke my wrist just before Christmas. So I'm still dealing with that. And unfortunately, I have got the splint. I was hoping. I went to the doctor yesterday, and at first he said, oh yeah, we can just get you into a brace. I'm so excited. Get the splint off. But no, I'm in a splint for another 2 to 3 weeks because it's just not healed as much as they'd hoped. So here we go. 2 more weeks. 3 more weeks, actually, I guess. I see him in the end of January. I'm getting used to it. Still some things that are hard to do. Okay, there we go. So we might as well put this on the inside of our card as well. You can decorate the inside of your card however you want, but I just really like these flowers. Okay, now I'm going to use dimensionals to put my flowers on. that. And then I think mini dimensionals. That's full size. Here's the minis for the smallest flowers. I could probably get a full size dimensional on, but okay. So I don't know that there's a right and wrong place for these flowers. There's kind of a spots for like an indentation around the stems, but you can put them wherever you kind of want them to go. Put one there, and then maybe one. Try not to cover up all of the leaves because they're kind of pretty. There we go. All right, so that is the decorations. Now I'm fussy cutting out again. You could use a punch or a die, or you could do what I'm doing. I'm just fussy cutting, and I'm just kind of following, not really paying too much attention, but just kind of leaving a little bit of white around the letters, steering with the paper. So the hand that hasn't got the scissors just makes it a whole lot easier to fussy cut. There we go. All right, and for this, it's pretty thin along the bottom. So what I like to do is, these are the foam adhesive strips, and it works really well when you've got a little tiny thin spot for a dimensional. And I've got just a little bit here that'll go right there, or I could have used a mini dimensional. They're a little thicker than the dimensionals, so I tend not to, like, it's hard to combine the two. You might have to double up on your dimensionals, but this works really well. Okay, and then the last thing I want to do is I want to add some of these. These are called adhesive backed milky dots. There are 200, so there's a lot in here. You can see I've used a lot. I did a swap and my thank you cards using this suite, and so therefore I've kind of used up a lot. So I'm going to use these kind of pinky colored ones for this card, since I have a fair number of those. Like that. I don't usually put even number of embellishments on, but there are 6 flowers, so therefore I'll put on 6 embellishments. So there we go. There is the Dutchdoor fold card. Again, if you missed any of the instructions or measurements, just hop over to my blog from the link underneath this video, and you will be able to find them over there. Just kind of switching back here. There we go. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done already, where you'll get notified when I post video tutorials or when I go live. And if you found your way over to my blog, don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter so you keep up on all the news. I do share tutorials and color challenges and other things monthly. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that card, and hope you have a great day. Happy stamping. Bye.